letter to Iowa friends, she offers reassurance over Sino-American exchanges. Ukraine Zelensky says Trump exerting undue pressure on him. Epstein tried to build a web of powerful ties across Middle East documents. Ukraine peace talks end in Geneva, after Zelensky says Russia stalling. Chinese President Xi Jinping has emphasized that cooperation between China and the United States should continue, regardless of political tensions, signaling a steady message ahead of an expected meeting with President Donald Trump. In a letter to longtime contacts in Iowa, Xi said the future of U.S.-China relations depends on the people of both nations and expressed hope for continued exchanges and collaboration. The remarks follow a turbulent period in bilateral ties, marked by trade disputes and threats of steep tariffs. However, relations showed signs of stabilization after talks between Xi and Trump last year extended a trade truce, with both sides making economic concessions. Recent communication between the two leaders has also addressed sensitive issues such as Taiwan and trade, while China is reportedly considering increased purchases of American soybeans. Trump has indicated plans to visit China in April, with Xi expected to make a return visit to the United States in 2026, moves that could further shape the trajectory of one of the world's most consequential diplomatic relationships. Despite ongoing rivalry, Xi's message suggests that both powers may be seeking a more predictable and cooperative path forward. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused U.S. President Donald Trump of applying undue pressure on Kyiv as efforts continue to negotiate an end to the nearly 4-year war with Russia. In an interview with Axios, Zelensky said it was not fair that Washington appeared to be urging Ukraine rather than Russia to make concessions. He added that he hopes Trump's approach is a negotiation tactic rather than official policy. Zelensky made clear that Ukrainians would reject any peace plan requiring the country to surrender territory not currently occupied by Russian forces, particularly in the eastern Donbas region. He warned that such a move would be deeply unpopular and emotionally unacceptable to the public. Instead, the Ukrainian leader suggested freezing the conflict along existing front lines as a more realistic path toward a settlement, a proposal he believes could gain public support in a national referendum. Despite the criticism, Zelensky thanked Trump for pursuing peace efforts and said his discussions with senior U.S. negotiators have remained respectful. Trump has recently urged Ukraine to move quickly toward a deal, saying Kyiv must come to the table fast. Zelensky responded by noting that it may be easier for Washington to pressure Ukraine than Russia, but insisted he would not yield under coercion. The exchange underscores the delicate balance facing negotiators as they attempt to end one of Europe's longest and most destructive conflicts in decades. The chief executive of global ports operator DP World has resigned after his name appeared in newly released U.S. Justice Department documents linked to convicted financier Jeffrey Epstein. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem stepped down as both chief executive and chair, following growing scrutiny over his past association with Epstein, according to sources familiar with the matter. DP World has not publicly commented on the reasons for his departure, and bin Sulayem has not responded to requests for comment. The documents reportedly include correspondence suggesting Epstein helped connect bin Sulayem with women. However, being named in the files does not, by itself, indicate criminal wrongdoing. The fallout prompted major investors, including a British development finance agency and a Canadian pension fund, to pause new investments until the company addressed the situation. Both institutions later welcomed the leadership change. The files also suggest Epstein sought to cultivate relationships with influential figures across the Middle East, offering advice on political and financial matters ranging from the Qatar diplomatic crisis to Saudi Aramco's public offering. Reuters noted it could not determine how successful Epstein was in influencing regional leaders or whether his recommendations were acted upon. The resignation marks one of the most significant regional consequences so far from the document release, highlighting the far-reaching network Epstein attempted to build among global political and business elites. U.S.-mediated peace talks between Ukraine and Russia in Geneva ended abruptly after just 2 hours, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky describing the discussions as difficult. Zelensky accused Moscow of deliberately delaying negotiations that he believes could already be nearing a final stage. Russian negotiator Vladimir Medinsky confirmed the meeting had concluded but said further talks are expected, though no date was announced. The negotiations come as President Donald Trump has recently urged Ukraine to move quickly toward a deal, suggesting Kyiv must take steps to ensure the talks succeed. Zelensky has pushed back, saying it is not fair for Ukraine to face pressure to make concessions while Russia occupies roughly 20% of Ukrainian territory. He also warned that Ukrainians would reject any agreement requiring the surrender of land not currently under Russian control. Officials indicated the talks focused on practical mechanisms for a potential settlement, but expectations for a breakthrough had already been low. Reports described earlier sessions as tense. The stalled negotiations arrived just days before the fourth anniversary of Russia's 2022 invasion, a conflict that has killed hundreds of thousands, displaced millions, and devastated large areas of Ukraine. With both sides still far apart on key issues, the path to peace remains uncertain as diplomatic efforts continue.